Welcome all to our financial wellness podcast, From Roots to Fruits, where we nurture our roots to grow more delicious fruits. I'm your host, Arlyne. Let's get started. So excited for this conversation. Gerald, we'll just break the ice in terms of where you are filming from right now, just so everybody else in the UK can be jealous. Where are you?
So I'm in sunny Ghana, spending Easter. I'm here for about 2 weeks. Really enjoying the sun at the moment. Not having to do any work is great. But actually, we still do some work here and there, but it's really just a holiday with family. So just enjoying it at the moment.
Jealous, so jealous. But when you're not on holiday and relaxing, because I know you've got so many projects and your job is really demanding. But just to introduce everybody to yourself, if you could describe your role right now at Barclays, what do you do?
Okay. I work within the implementation team, supporting basically one of the biggest pension schemes in the UK. So we manage the Barclays Bank Retirement Fund. So that's one of, as I said, the big pension schemes. And my role is essentially turning strategy into execution. So I'm involved when it comes to the trade management, also risk management in all of our investment strategies, looking at any documentation, reviewing the contents of that documentation, making sure that it's, in a good place so that we can execute, and also just being there to oversee the whole end to end, basically the trade management cycle from the initial idea all the way to execution, and then following execution, just post management. So that's what I do as an implementation manager within.
That sounds really great. And I'm sure a lot of people would love to kind of learn a bit more, but we're not going to focus too much on right now. And I've seen kind of your LinkedIn CV, and you've done so much work within the investment space, like investment consulting. Can you describe like your career so far within investment and finance?
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely do that. So, I'd say my journey into finance actually started at a retail investment fund house called Best Invest, which is now known as Evelyn Partners, and that was really my first real exposure into how everyday people built their wealth through investing in their ISAs and investing in their SIPs, and it was all about long-term investing. So, what really struck me there is they weren't high net worth individuals, or they weren't large corporations. They were just ordinary people who had been investing for 10, 15 years, and they built up basically portfolios of quite sizable amounts, not just through luck, but through discipline and consistency. So my job there was actually supporting those retail clients in their investment decisions, providing guidance on the latest funds to invest, also how the markets were doing, and then also just a general overview of their portfolio in terms of what they're invested in across the different sectors, but also across the different regions. And then from there, I actually moved into investment consultancy at Buck, so Buck Consultants, who are now part of the Galloway Group, where things became a lot more institutional. And that's where I was working with corporate pension trustees, helping them make long-term investment decisions, building funding strategies, and managing investment risk. My day at Buck would usually be involved with producing detailed client reports, performance and risk analytics, and then investment fact sheets that I was creating based on all of the manager research, the research that I was doing. And then from there, that's when I transitioned to Barclays, as I said, now part of OPAM, who are the in-house asset management team. So yeah,
That's really good.
almost a decade of transitioning from obviously working with clients, but transitioning from retail to institutional clients. But that's been me.
That's great. And I think that's something that a lot of people are really interested in understanding how to begin a journey in, like just understanding investments and where they can put their money and try and grow it as well. There's just so much going on out there. So it's really great that you've had a career in growing, other people's wealth, your clients and other organizations, even dealing with large pension funds. That's a big deal. And yeah, now more than ever, where like the market's going up and down, it's a really good skill to have. And I mean, over to what you're doing on the side. On the side, I wouldn't say it's that when you start a business, it's now two jobs. But you started the long term a few years ago, and could you let us know what sparked that idea?
Fine, definitely. So I'd say after all of the years of working with both retail and institutional clients, what I kind of noticed was that there was this large disconnect where inside the institutions, we're planning for decades ahead, but outside of that, most people are just reacting, from month to month. At work, at my current role, we're planning for 30 to 40 years ahead. Everything's very, very structured, intentional, and it's aligned with long-term goals. We're not just throwing money into the markets. We have frameworks, decision points, scenario models. We don't leave anything to chance. But outside of that, when you're talking to your friends, and I'm talking to people my age group that are also smart, talented, ambitious, they're very much overwhelmed. And it's not because they don't care about their future. They just don't really have a structure. There's no system to really help them move from I want to buy a house to here's what I need to do this year, this month, this week to make that happen. And that's kind of where it hit me. We've been taught how to work hard. We've obviously now given the way globalization, personalization, all of the different things, economic things, and technological advances are also, showing us what we can learn. Briefly, I think we're only just touching the surface when it comes to learning about how we can make our money work for us. But what I realize is, what we don't have is a plan, how to break down a big goal into actual steps and then execute. And that's basically what planted the seed for the long term. I basically wanted to bring the mindset, the tools, the structure of institutional investing to our generation in a way that's actually usable and aligned with the life that they want to live. So not just more information, but a clear system and a framework that gives people basically the tools to make decisions faster.
I love it. That's definitely something that is needed now more than ever. And it's something that a lot of people have expressed that they need it. Actually, there's a demand for it, which is great. And so this is good in terms of like what you're providing. Is it a tool? Is it a platform? Is it a service? How is it actually going to help people?
So just to probably expand on that, it's a platform.
Hmm.
So the way I see things is in reality, people don't need, another budgeting app or a list of generic tips. They need something that's going to allow them to turn their goals into action and basically structure and simplify things. So the best way that I'm thinking of how we need to do this is we're creating a platform that users or people can log in, seeing all of their accounts in one place, which also improves, financial clarity. And then using all of the data that they have, we're able to then provide them with personalized insights on what's the best thing that they need to do, or what's the best options that they need to do to be able to achieve their goals. Through the platform, being able to just, as a platform, as an app, which is going to be basically mobile and a web-based app that they can log into.
Hmm. That's great. I've seen the demo, so I'm really excited for the full on launch.
Thank you.
Is definitely something that people need, something that's holistic, one place, and you use it for the long term. So appropriately named.
I think I've exhausted the long term name, and I think it's just great that it's stuck in people's heads.
Yeah, it's it. It's the tagline.
It's like,
I mean, so in terms of, you've already mentioned like right now, there's quite a lot of budgeting apps, sorry, budgeting tools in terms of like Excel documents and even like wallets these days where
mm-hmm,
you're meant
mm-hmm.
to put things into envelopes and stuff like that. There's quite a lot of that. Is there a gap from what's already provided that you're plugging essentially? Um, with the financial literacy like knowledge that people that walk away with, is there something that's missing right now?
I would say there is a gap, not necessarily in terms of knowledge. And I just literally, well, quite recently put out a survey, and one of the results I asked the question to the respondents is, what are some of the concerns you have? And top concern was top concern is falling behind when it comes to their life goals, and then followed by that is most guidance. Most guidance seems generic and not personalized to me. So the way I see it right now is that, especially given the technological advances, is we really need to personalize the experience. And I don't think there are many apps that are actually doing that at the moment. Not, and those I say I haven't seen many within the UK where they're able to basically consolidate all of your information in one place, because I think that's basically the first step. If people want to build on clarity, they need to be able to see all of their accounts in, one centralized place. Where apps at the moment, they're currently building towards that, and I think the next stage is definitely going to be personalization, and then actionable steps, which is what we are definitely working towards with the long term.
I mean, just for myself, just thinking about the different places that I've been in terms of the support that I've needed. One minute I'm now full time in terms of working at somewhere like Virgin Media
Mhm.
O2 is where I worked last, and then being a full time business owner and having. But I was using the same tools and the same information. Essentially, the budget that I had as a
Mhm.
full-time, employee does not apply to right now as a full-time business owner.
Yeah,
And it would be great to like just make sure that the tools that I'm using are intuitive and they're kind of growing with me. And I'm sure people will also have different stages in life where
like
maybe
yeah,
they're single and then they get married or they start a family or they're buying a house. So just kind of something that can move along each journey
yeah.
with them is sounds really great.
Because definitely at the moment we're seeing that systems need to be, well, obviously given the buzzwords like AI, systems need to be a lot more intuitive, and to be
Mm-hmm.
able to take the data that they're getting from people and then giving it back to them in things that are under things that resonate with them based on their lifestyle, their current habits. And then there's a big element here that people aren't factoring in, is how when it comes to, let's say, take going back to working with institutional clients and large corporations, there the emotion is taken out of the decision making. It's a lot of, okay, this is entity, it's just an entity, it's a structure, but that allows people to move, or people to action things or implement very, very quick. But when you are dealing with an individual, in this case, you know, you are dealing with you're working on life basically. They're an individual's fears, their habits, their goals. And we know, as from your experience as well, it's people don't necessarily make the best decisions, just given because of all of the emotional and psychological factors that make up a person. So, systems are now going to be able to take that into account, especially when it comes to giving personalized guidance. Because I think the best way to get someone to move forward is definitely if you personalize a system that resonates with them. They don't need, like I said, they don't need the whole spiel or a whole entire encyclopedia of financial literacy. They're very much focused on, okay, what is my goal? I might need to achieve that goal. I might only need a subset of financial literacy topics which are relevant to me, and I will be more than happy to be able to move forward on that, rather than you've given me the whole encyclopedia, and I feel very much overwhelmed. So we don't people.
There's that as well.
Yeah.
People easily get over, especially on the subject of finance. It is never too early to start planning for your retirement. And that's where our sponsor, Pension Bee, comes in. Pension Bee are on a mission to build pension confidence and create a world where everyone can enjoy a happy retirement. Whether you've moved around jobs a lot and are looking to consolidate your pension into one easy to manage plan, or You're self-employed looking for a flexible pension plan which allows you to contribute as much or as little as you like depending on your income. It's easy to sign up and you can do this via the link in the show notes. So, what are you waiting for? Take control of your retirement today, and remember, when investing, your capital is at risk. And I read somewhere that the long term is a place to give people peace of mind about money, which is really beautiful. So, what role does mindset play with personal finances?
I'd say it plays a very, very important, very, very important part for me in terms of mindset. It always starts with, I think it always starts for me with the end in mind
Mhm.
of what you're trying to do, whether it's, whether it's what are your goals? Buying a home, clearing debt, starting a business, or just having, as I said, just having that peace of mind. Like the confidence is really the tool, and the goal is
Mhm.
progress. And we're seeing that a lot of people feel, when it comes to money, that either their goals are either too far away or completely out of reach. So what we're trying to do, and we think that the first step really is just helping them helping them connect the dots between where they are now and what they want to do. And by doing that, we're able to do that with clarity and judgment, where we can basically unpack their entire financial situation, income, spending, savings, debt, you name it, allow them to see the full picture. And then what we then need to do there is start breaking things down and having, as I said, having those conversations with them in terms of, okay, how are you, you are spending, like you're spending in a certain type of way, whether it be, spending too much in one area, but your goal is to achieve a house. Now you also need to factor in that you need to be saving towards that house. So the question doesn't become, judging them on spending in this area. It's you need to now start to rephrase your points and say, okay, is what you're doing currently aligned with your long-term goals? And basically, like one of our tagline is your short-term actions determine your ability to achieve your long-term goals. So if people can get the confidence and realize, okay, what I'm doing here in terms of the financial decisions that I'm making, if they're in line with my goals, whether it be something small as, okay, I've spent £50 less this week and I'm going to be able to put that in my savings, that's a win. And what we want to
Mhm.
try and do here is accumulate small wins, and that's what allows people to build their confidence and move forward. And as you know, those small wins, it's like a snowball. They just continue to get larger, and as people go through life, they're building the confidence. They realize when they look back, wow, I've managed to do all of these things in a 3 to 5 year period.
I love that because sometimes you look at a goal and think, how on earth am I going to achieve this? It just feels too big. But
Hmm.
actually, if you break it down into small, and sometimes it's really hard to break it down into those small actionable steps, as you mentioned. So it's great if there's a tool that can support you to do that. And before you know it, you're actually achieving your initial goal. It sounds a little bit like an accountability partner too, where it's like, excuse me, in January, you said your goal was this, and now we're in April,
April.
and are you acting towards your goal or not? Because your financial spending is not
Exactly.
tracking.
We're trying to do it in a way. It's a combination of that, but also tick boxes. Can you as an individual, say, okay, I've saved £50 this week. If being shown that you haven't done it, you need to check in and reevaluate things. Like
Yes.
the whole goal is to be able to tick check boxes through life, and
Hmm.
then you realize over time these are all of the major accomplishments that you've had. And
Hmm.
I think that's the biggest motivator. Well, I'd say it's also motivator, but it's just like that confirmation that I've actually managed to do this. That's what
Yes.
people. That's what people. it keeps them motivated anyway.
Yeah, it definitely keeps me motivated. After I achieve something, I'm like, okay, I thought it was going to be really difficult. I started, now I've done it. I can do something else
Hmm.
because I've achieved that. There's proof
Yep.
yeah, of the concept. So that's great. And because in terms of the language that you're using is really good. It sounds like you're applying everything that you've learned and everything that you have been using to support, the wealthy essentially, and to support larger companies to be able to grow their wealth portfolio. And it's great that you are applying this to the individual so then they can grow their wealth too, which is really great. And I like that it comes with a dashboard so people can see visually. How important was it that the design and the feel and the look matches with kind of the strategy part of things in the background?
So I'd say, well, just given my experience, and I'd say I'm a bit of a perfectionist in the sense of when I first built the dashboards for the long term, and I've basically been doing this, as I said, learning all of the skills, building using no code platforms. So kind of
Mm,
built up that app development, early stage, app developer. I tried to replicate the things that I'd seen in terms of most dashboards. It's usually like what you'll usually see is, okay, how much do you have in your set? How much do you have on your cards, your bank account balances, your investment balances? It's very much like this is what's going on. This is how you've done over the last month.
mm,
These are the articles that we have available. We probably just posted a new article, and then it might sometimes just show you that, depending on certain apps anyway, it might show you where you are in relation to what your goal could be. And the way they've done it sometimes is that goal could be really like it could just be like a retirement number where we expect you to we expect you to have, let's say, in 25 years, you may have a portfolio of 700K, like, or yeah, 700K, but it doesn't, these dashboards they don't start off with the goals focus, which I think that is very, very, very key. And that's how we tried to design it. From You log onto the dashboard, the first thing you're seeing is, okay, here are your goals, and obviously in chronological order. Here's the progress that you've made, and then from there we move on to personalized insights of what's working, what's not working, and then it becomes a secondary insights of here's how to get there faster, which is a combination of, as I said before, personalized topics that people should be looking at, especially when it comes to, for example, if they are starting off in their investment journey, it's I would say for them, or I would say in terms of the way we are trying to organize the system, is things, for example, opening your first account, choosing what investment accounts work for you, understanding the fees and the cost structure on the different investment types that you are going to be entering into. And then we move on to the more intricate stuff of understanding what the investments are, and then how they would work as part of your portfolio. But that's, as I said, that's one section. Another individual could be, at a very earlier stage in their financial journey, and they could be very much like cash flow management focused. So that's where you have short snippets on you're pointing them to short snippets on how to manage, or how to basically create a budget. And what we're even trying to do is just find, new ways of budgeting, because I think we've definitely heard so much on the old structures and strategies, the 50, 30, 20s and everything. Now we're basically want to change the mindset and go more towards the goal-based budgeting approach of, is your spending, your savings in line with the goals that you're trying to achieve. So that's where we're
mm,
trying to point. So very much like this whole dashboard is goals first, what's not working, and then what you can do in terms of financial literacy. But at the end of the day, the individual still has to do the work outside. Then we're always just going to be, and this is the things that I do love about the app as well. It's the nudges and the notifications, like, hey, you've done well this week. These are things
Mm,
that these are the things that, for example, as I said, going back to savings example, you could put an extra £50 in, and we can show people how that helps them across the different areas. So if you can put £50 towards your savings, or you can put £50 towards your debt, or you can put £50 towards your investments. Here's how your situation changes, which is now another point that they will say, oh wow, okay, if I keep doing this, I'm going to get to my goals a lot faster. We're not saying,
yes.
we're not trying to. It's not a get rich quick thing. It's very much just be happy with the progress that you're making, and realizing that it's faster giving that you now have the structures and the framework in place.
I love that. And it's a long term thing. A lot, it's
Very,
that you have
very
to
long
think
term.
in the long term. Yeah. Oh, you said so much that I really want to touch on. And I mean, the first thing was around the investment part of things, and also thinking about, because you mentioned like a number that I was like, okay, that's the number that I said that I want at retirement,
Hmm.
£750,000. And that was like the minimum, because
Hmm.
that's based on the minimum I have to spend. And if I have that, then over a number of years, then I can live on a month to month basis.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I asked a few people, do they know what their retirement number is? And they have no idea how to calculate it. So the fact that in there it's built in to like kind of ask questions around your goals and ask you prompts and hopefully kind of support you in how to calculate certain things, then already winning, because a lot of people know in theory what they need to do, but then they don't know how to sit down and start to calculate. So even better if they're working smart, not hard, by
Yeah.
using the tool that provides it for them, even better.
Thank you, thank you. And I think going back to what you said is, especially on the retirement side, what we do see is we've seen like a number of like retirement forecasters, which is like, okay, based on what you have, this is what you are projected to have, but really you should be working the other way around. It's at retirement, or not even at retirement, because I think what's changed for a lot of people is this whole financial independence, retiring early. That movement, should I say? Um, what the funny thing is, it's still quite synonymous with retirement, because the way to think about it. It's still the same, and that boils down to what is the type of lifestyle do you want to live, and
Mm-hmm,
how long do you want to live that for, and how much do you think it's going to cost? And
mm-hmm,
based on that, that's when you start doing calculations and working backwards. A lot of the high net worth individuals who have, financial advisors, there's financial advising, the systems that they use can definitely do the calculations. We can also do those calculations as well. So it's just basically it's taking the tools that are, for the institutional investors, the high net worth investors, and bringing that down to the everyday person so they can understand. As I said, doing presenting it in a way that doesn't make them feel overwhelmed,
mm-hmm,
but it also should urge them to, getting themselves sorted, getting themselves in a structure, in a framework that they can now work towards. Okay, I know I need. There's a number that I'm working toward. There's a number that
mm-hmm.
I'm working towards. It might be large, but if I, break it down on a monthly basis, I can definitely improve my chances greatly of getting there.
Yes, yes. And if you start early, then you've
Hmm.
got longer to kind of work towards it. And I know your target audience are, young adults, people that are, just starting out their financial journey, or just people just starting out in life and building on that. I mean, to anyone that's in their 20s or these that are starting out and trying to make sense of starting to save and invest and the risks that are associated with it. Is there any advice that you can give them, since you are someone that offers, investment support for a decade? Um, How could you give a young person some simple advice on where to start?
So, simple advice I would say for a young person, and I'm gonna, continue with the goals focus here is start with your goals, not the trends. Not everyone telling you you need to jump into crypto, you need to invest in a certain index funds. It's just understanding what do you want out of life, and when do you want it? Is it is it freedom from a job? Is it owning your own home? Is it having options by the time that you're 40? Money really and truly is it's just a tool, but it's only powerful when it's pointed at something that actually matters. And that's where, the whole idea of then reverse engineering and working backwards, once you've defined your goal, to then break it down into stages based on times. So, for example, shorter term goals, really the focus should be on protection. And that's where we're talking about savings and your cash buffers coming in, any insurance that you may need, and then your mid to longer term goals. That's where you need growth. Whether you're, for the my entrepreneurs out there, where you're either building a business. That's where you're taking a bit more risk, and you're putting, once you've covered yourself from the short term sides, and you're making sure that you've got enough there to, for example, like your emergency savings, your sinking funds. Once you've addressed all of that, then you should be now focusing on the growth aspect. And then the last bit, which is very, very important, and this basically just talks to peace of mind, and that is you will have peace of mind when you have your systems in place, you're automating everything in terms of how much you need to be saving on a monthly basis. It's going into your savings accounts, it's going into your investment accounts, using direct debit, standing orders, having having either one or two, or let's say you can reduce the number of apps that you're using to manage your finances. Try and keep that as minimal as possible. And the reason why I say that is because you're not just using multiple apps to address different areas of your finances, because that's another headache in itself, where you could potentially be making suboptimal decisions because each financial app or tool or product is focusing on a certain area, but it's not taking into account your entire financial picture, which is very, very. You want to make. I think there's a saying. It's measure twice, cut once, where you want to have the picture and then understand from there what's the best decisions that I can make that supports all of the different areas, because we already know people are juggling so much in their life. So being able to try and keep things minimalistic, and then reducing them down to, let's say, if you got one, as I said, if you've got one app that does everything from a planning perspective, then okay, there's only maybe two other apps that I need on the execution side, and keeping that very, very limited. And then I'd say from that, you just, because now you have that app, and now you have that app in terms of the app from a framework perspective, you just go about your normal day, but now with a focus of, or focus and an idea of, is everything that I'm doing in real life aligned, as I said, aligned to my longer term goals? Those, how have I now started to change I'm starting to change my financial habits. I'm spending less, I'm going out less. I'm still enjoying life a bit. Your
Yes.
habits allow you to create a balance, have a balance.
Quick break to talk about Roots to Fruits and all the amazing stuff we've got in store this year. So we have workshops, we've got coaching sessions, and we've got in-person events. So check out our website to find out which is the right solution for you. We're also on social media, so you can interact with us, comment, send a DM, whatever you'd like. I also like to tell you about our digital learning hub, where we've got all the tools. We've got workbooks, we've got Excel documents on there, we've got videos to talk you through how to do certain tasks, depending on the module that you would like to focus on, whether that is saving, paying off your debt, or if you'd like to just have a general pulse on how to budget, we have all of that for you on our Learning Hub. So follow the link and see you there. Love that. Yes. And more on the last point, because we're coming into summer. So you can plan to have fun as well. This isn't, everything that you've said, this isn't a bad thing to like gain control over your finances. So yeah, great advice for young adults there. And right now we're hearing quite a lot coming. So we're recording in April and, there's been tariffs drama coming out of the US, and there's the spring, UK
Mm-hmm.
financial statement that came out, and we know that the cost of living has gone up since like the start of April. So things are feeling a little bit harder, and there's economic uncertainty at the moment, which might feel like there's a little bit of risk. But I know from hearing you speak already, you're like, okay, you need to be thinking about the long term and not about the short term,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good tip. But people might be panicking right now because of all the economic uncertainty. How are you approaching everything? Just reframe the question. How are you managing the economic uncertainty? And is there things that you've done with your finances differently now compared to a few months ago when things felt a bit steadier?
I definitely say I've worked probably well, I've done a few rejigs in like my personal finances anyway, and there's been I think I'm thankful, just grateful that I'm given the opportunity, especially with like all of the things that I've done in my experiences where I have basically created layers subconsciously and then consciously realized that I've created layers where, like I said, when it goes to automating those systems, like I'm continuously paying into, paying direct debits, paying it towards like my retirement accounts, and we're obviously already thinking about long term. But I have a system for that, so I leave that alone. And just
Mm-hmm.
given the uncertainty, I focused a lot more on the short term. So having my cash buffers. I think well, a couple of months ago, I paid off my student loan. So it was just like everything in relation to like short term debt manage like debt basically I've got that out of the way, basically just cleared it. So now the way I think about it is yes, things are still quite tough, but I'm very much focusing on building the cash buffers up again. And I think now it's just like I'm a lot more free, just given that I have no debt to I have no debt to work to manage down. So I think
Mm-hmm.
really now when we're with all of the uncertainty, what you don't want is to be making any unnecessary interest payments, or you want to try and keep them as light as possible. Yes, interest will be there might be some interest that you need to pay depending on the type of debt that you have. If it's debt that you've taken out for, should we say, good debt, maybe for business, fine, continue to service that debt because it's helping your company, it's helping like your business grow. Any debt related to, let's say, any debt related to like home improvements, things like that, best way to try and get them, interest free. Definitely a
Mm-hmm.
way around that, into like small manageable payments. But for me, I'm just really trying to keep like debt light. That's been my thing in
Yes.
the last 6 months. And it's just like walking
Mm.
around, like I said, I can be on holiday now and just not have
You're like, student loans done, I'm
student loans
off.
done, credit cards done, I'm off. Like,
Good.
you guys just chill. Like I said, from now on, it's just okay. Continue to build up your savings. You're already investing. You've got a few assets here, but I'm not trying to brag. It's just like I said, the main focus really should be on protecting yourself in the very short term.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you may need to, and obviously everybody's circumstances is different. Maybe you might need to take a break on investing and understanding, the holes that could be present in your financial setup because you don't, especially with all of this uncertainty that we're going through, you like certain things could just knock you back and you might not be able to recover
Mm-hmm.
from them. So, as I said, having emergency funds in place, sinking funds in place. I think those two right now, super important.
Yes, I love that. And just as you said, that was my first thought too. As soon as I things started to feel a bit shaky, I thought, okay, we need to get rid of a couple of those credit cards that
Hmm.
I've just kept going for a few months now.
Hmm.
Before I was quite good at paying off credit cards, but with being a business owner, it's meant
Yeah,
that sometimes I'm spending more. And I was like, we just can't get into that
yeah,
hole. So that's I've been open to like let people know that I've got credit card debt that I really need to
hmm,
clear off, and as you said, a bit more savings because personally, like my mortgage is going to go up because I was benefiting from
yeah.
like 1.6% for 5 years. So things are about to feel,
Feel the pinch.
yeah. Yes, exactly. So maybe people can, obviously, everyone's in different circumstances, but as you said, ultimately, it's about increasing your savings and decreasing your short-term debt, especially, which simple, to be honest, it's a simple
But it
place
is,
for people to
yeah,
start.
it just is a bit. That's the thing. It is a bit difficult, and we get it. It's just the mindset of how to do it. And I would definitely say for people that are trying to find a way to start, especially when it comes to debt, they should look at debt repayment strategies. The debt snowball and debt avalanche strategies that will basically just give them an idea of how quickly they can pay
Hmm.
down. And I think that's probably the best. I'd say on a debt management side, that's probably the best and easiest way to execute a strategy to, well, they're two strategies anyway. So it's very, very easy to execute them and then it tells you what to pay first and when. And depending on what strategy you choose, when you'll be debt free, as long as you stick to that process. But those two strategies are very, very, very powerful.
Honestly, I agree. And from speaking to people talk about debt and how much of a burden it can become, so you have no clue how to get out of it, and it's really hard to think of a day that you're not going to have that debt. So just having that place to start is it it's actually invaluable for a lot of people. So yeah, no, thank you for sharing. And I've got less kind of intense questions about kind of investments and things like that, more about kind of yourself and getting to know you because you have mentioned that kind of your finances need to be aligned with your goals and where you're trying to go as well and the life that you want to live. So I know right now you're on holiday, so it might be an easy one, but what's the life that you're aiming to have and working towards and work so hard to then achieve? What's your lifestyle?
Good question. So I think from everything that I have done so far and what I'm looking to build, I just have this goal to be able to just help people, either help people through, I think help people individually and then help people like, collectively through ventures that I'm looking at going into. And for me, that is definitely, I think home is a start. So definitely looking at Ghana to be able to help a lot of people. And then obviously what I'm doing with the long term is basically the base. But the aim is really to be able to help people transition from confusion to then move with confidence and clarity. So my lifestyle at the moment, like I said, I'm keeping things very, very light on the debt side, saving a
Hmm.
lot, investing. Obviously I invest in on both sides as an entrepreneur and then as someone that's just investing in the financial markets, obviously looking at still managing my pension, investing there, but I'm very much now just looking at opportunities to be able to do impact investing, um
Hmm.
whether it be through the long term or through various other ventures, and just really like just connecting with people, definitely just connecting with
Hmm.
people, understanding all of their experiences and just networking really. Just I think the way
Yeah.
the way we can just continue to just collaborate, building wealth together and also just building influence to be able to improve the systems that aren't working.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. And we've, collaborated in the past, which has been really great in terms of the feedback that people gave for like the event was
Yeah.
like this time last year or early last year that you hosted, which was great for people to network as well, which is under the umbrella of things that you're trying to support people with. So that's really great and really wholesome. So, in terms of maybe books that you're currently reading, it doesn't have to be a financial book, but are there any books that you're reading right now that people can pick up? Are you a book person?
I'm more of an audiobook person. I think the last book
Okay.
that okay, so the last book that I definitely got, well, I'm reading it at the moment anyway. It's very much like a self-help book, but it's from a investment side. It's called the Investable Entrepreneur. Um, so definitely have a look at that. It's I can't remember the author, but I have to go back inside actually and double check. But it's like green and white, just says investable entrepreneur, and
We'll look
it's
for it.
yeah, definitely look out for it because you can actually get it for free. It just actually helps. Yeah, it helps people basically start and scale businesses, and all of the tools and all of the systems that they need to have in place. For example, the starting point is having your business plan ready, understanding the finances of the business plan, and then turning that using those two crucial points to then be able to create a pitch deck to go out to investors and having that. And it also just goes through all the pitfalls and just understanding the psychology of why you need those things and the psychology of also the people that you're going to be dealing with. For example, investors, also your clients that are going to be using your service. So that's what I've been hooked at the moment because it's just been a very much like a I say a different way of thinking, especially when
Hmm.
especially as an entrepreneur, you're very much like in your own bubble of, okay, this is what I need to do. This is how I think it should be done because this is how I think, my customers or, like users are gonna resonate with it. But really it just says, take a step back. What are you trying to, what are your customers actually looking for? What are people's pain points? What are your investors' pain points? Understanding all of that to be able to then create something that resonates with your clients and then also intrigues your investors to go, okay, I want to be part of this journey.
I can benefit from this. I'm definitely gonna download it, and I know a
It's
lot of
actually so
the
funny enough.
clients.
There's two
Yeah.
ways you can actually download it, and they'll also send you a free copy. So I've got the physical copy, which I'm like, all of my journeys, train, on the tube, I'm flying, I'm reading it.
Brilliant. And I know a lot of our clients as well could benefit from it. So one that we'll definitely share with everybody. We'll put a link of it
Yeah.
in the show notes so people can check it out. So last question, and in terms of the long term for you, what does that look like?
So the long term for me, that is a very, 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 very good question. The long term for me, and I would say, and this goes back to what we mentioned earlier, is like I'm building freedom with intention. Um, for me, it's as I said, it's not about and the way people use financial freedom, quite openly, but it's not too specific, and sometimes it can be vague. It's for me, I'm just looking to, as I said, research opportunities to strategically build wealth through impact investing, and then, like I said, in terms of that allows what I'm trying to do here is I want to be able to, I want to be able to spend my time identifying where purpose meets potential backing. Ventures, founders, people with all of I want to back those people that align with my values and serve a bigger vision of how can we help the masses. So for me, that's how I define freedom. Having the space to think, move strategically, potentially not being tied down to any location. That's also a goal for me. I'd like to to do a few months in a specific continent and just be headquarters in probably. well, probably home like Ghana. So
Yeah.
that's something that I'm looking towards. And then, as I said, it's not just about me, but it's also about the lifestyle that I'm unlocking for my loved ones. Like, you know, the ability to be able to show up, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, having time, you know, to be able to support and care about the people that I love without, you know, sacrificing my peace. Because um, especially as young in the, you know, our younger generation, we're dealing with a lot more than previous generations, and we're also still supporting the older generation. So there's that balance of how can I need to be able to have the time to do that. And you know, that's something that I'm working on, especially for, you know, especially for like my family. So building that foundation is, it's like it's not just on money, but it's on clarity, access, and opportunity for me. So my journey, especially navigating from both the institutional finance space and personal life, has just taught me wealth isn't just about accumulation, it's about alignment, and it's about being able to live, give, and then build and rest, all without compromising like what matters most to me. So that's the financial freedom lifestyle that I'm creating, and I think a lot of people are also in that same boat.
Live, give, build, and what was
Live,
that?
live, build.
Yeah, give and rest. Okay, cool. That's the tag. I like it. I mean, there's so much more I wanted to ask, but I have to be mindful of time. How can people find you and find the platform as well?
So platforms over the long term, people can find that on LinkedIn and Instagram. So that's the long term LTD. And then we also have the website. So that's www.thelongterm.co.uk. And then in terms of finding me, so Gerald Gabriel Boateng on Instagram and also on LinkedIn. That's mostly where I've got most of my content. And you'll be seeing a lot more because we've got a few events that we are looking to do this year. Yeah, a few events, and what we're trying to do as well is definitely a lot more focus testing sessions. So it'd be great for people to come along and test the app and give us their feedback.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your holiday.
Thank you very much for having me. Thanks, Arlyne.
I'm gonna. That is all for us today, guys. Join us next week for some more seeds to sow. And please remember to support us by following and leave a rating on our show on whichever platform you're listening to us from. To those watching on YouTube, please leave a like and a subscribe to our channel. All of your support goes a long way. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, keep shining.